The sheriff of the small town of Castle Rock, Alan Pangborn, continues his search for a missing boy, Henry Deaver. Alone, he walks through the forest on the town's edge, where the child was last seen. But there's no sign of him. Taking a short break, the sheriff sits and stares at the frozen, empty lake. Suddenly, a strange sound echoes. When it stops, Henry appears in the middle of the ice, alive. 27 years pass. Castle Rock remains quiet. Dale Lacey, longtime warden of Shawshank Prison, is retiring after 30 years. On his final morning, he prepares breakfast for his blind wife, says goodbye, and leaves home. But he never shows up at work. Instead, he drives to a forest lake, ties a rope around his neck and to a tree, then hits the gas. His car goes off a cliff. Teresa Porter takes over as deputy warden. She explores Shawshank and learns that all past wardens met strange, untimely ends. But she's more focused on the prison's overcrowding. Some inmates even sleep in the gym. Officer Zaleski suggests reopening Block FS, closed after a fire in 1987. If cleaned, it could hold dozens of inmates. Teresa tells him to inspect it. Zaleski breaks the rusty lock and enters the dusty, abandoned block. Oddly, he spots fresh boot prints. He follows them to a locked maintenance door and then to a hatch. He opens it with effort, but his wallet falls inside. Forced to go down, he finds a chair, a book, and a tin full of cigarette butts. It looks suspicious. Suddenly, from the shadows, a man locked in a cage stares at him. Scared, Zaleski climbs out quickly. An emergency inspection is launched. But all inmates are accounted for. No one understands how a mystery prisoner ended up there. He is taken to an interrogation room but doesn't answer any questions or respond to anyone. After a shower, Zaleski returns to the basement for evidence. The key item, the tin of cigarette butts. It's sent to Teresa. Comparing it to her predecessor's cigarettes, she realizes it was Lacey who kept the young man locked up. No record of the prisoner exists in the system or Lacey's files. No fingerprints, no match in missing persons databases. Teresa fears the news could damage Shawshank's reputation and her job. She orders everyone to stay silent to avoid trouble. Zaleski is deeply worried. He knows awful things happen inside the prison and fears this mystery man might quietly vanish. Teresa personally interrogates the prisoner. After a long silence, he finally speaks. He says the name Henry Deaver. But the guards know that name belongs to someone else, a former resident of Castle Rock. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Henry Deaver is now a lawyer defending people on death row. He left Castle Rock long ago. At a current trial, he fails to save a client. During his last visit with her, memories surface. He recalls the moment Sheriff Pangborn found him. Everything before that is still a blur. Teresa reviews Henry's file again and sticks to her decision not to involve him. Her deputy agrees and proposes hiding the prisoner with a dangerous inmate to make the case disappear. But Zaleski overhears their talk. Secretly, he calls Henry Deaver and tells him about the boy in the cage who spoke his name. Zaleski warns, if Henry doesn't come, the prisoner might not survive. A few days later, Henry returns to Castle Rock. Although he's been gone for many years, people still recognize him as he walks through the town. The looks he receives are cold, and it's clear some residents still hold him responsible for what happened to his father. As Henry walks the familiar streets, long-buried memories begin to surface. He recalls the day the sheriff found him standing alone on the frozen lake. But everything before that moment is still missing from his mind. He has no memory of where he was during his mysterious disappearance. Back at home, Henry is reunited with his adoptive mother. Sadly, she doesn't recognize him right away. Her memory is fading due to illness. However, her partner, the former sheriff, instantly knows who Henry is. Meanwhile, inside the prison, the silent boy sits quietly in his dark cell. He notices a mouse nearby and, without moving, seems to mentally guide the animal straight into a trap. Henry wastes no time and heads to the prison. There, the new warden, Teresa, welcomes him to her office. She tells him no such prisoner exists, and the call he received must have been a prank. She advises him to return to his life in Chicago. But Henry isn't convinced. As he leaves her office, his eyes meet those of Zaleski. The two men clearly recognize each other, but neither says a word. Later that night, Zaleski watches the prison monitors. Suddenly, he sees something alarming. The prisoner's cell is completely empty, and the boy is nowhere to be found on the other security feeds. Just a second later, the boy suddenly appears on a different camera. This time, he's in the hallway, staring directly into the lens. Behind him, Zaleski sees what looks like the lifeless bodies of fellow guards. Terrified, Zaleski sounds the alarm and rushes out to confront the danger. But when he reaches the hallway, everything is normal. His colleagues are all alive. It becomes clear that the terrifying scene he saw on the screen was just a vision. The prisoner never actually left his cell. To understand what's truly happening, we need to go back in time. From the very beginning, Castle Rock has been an unusual town, filled with strange and unsettling events. Over the years, nearly every home has been touched by something dark or disturbing. Henry, determined to uncover the truth, visits the home of the former prison warden. He doesn't reveal his identity to the blind woman living there, and she welcomes him warmly. She even offers to help and leads him into her late husband's office. But when a neighbor calls her and mentions who the visitor really is, her attitude changes. She immediately asks Henry to leave her home and never come back. Meanwhile, Zaleski visits the boy in the cell again to collect his untouched meal tray. He quietly tries to ask about the disturbing vision he had, but the prisoner remains silent, just like before. News of the strange, hidden inmate reaches the sheriff. He meets Teresa at a local bar and shares a story from 30 years ago. One night, while on patrol, he stopped Warden Lacey's car. During their talk, Lacey claimed he had discovered the devil himself and had locked him away in a cage. After that, he said, the awful events in Castle Rock seemed to stop. But now, the sheriff warns, if Teresa chooses to release the boy, the darkness will return. After hearing this, Teresa and her deputy descend into the well beneath the prison to investigate where the boy had been kept. Teresa tries to understand how someone as respected and decent as Lacey could have imprisoned a child like that. She is now faced with the impossible question, what is the right thing to do? Soon after, her deputy comes to fetch the boy. They place him in a new cell, this time with the prison's most dangerous and violent inmate. The plan is simple. Let the criminal handle the unwanted prisoner. At first, everything seems to go according to plan. The dangerous man is annoyed by the boy's quiet demeanor and begins looking for a reason to start a fight. But the boy doesn't react. He only says a few words, calmly asking not to be touched, suggesting that it would be better for everyone. At a busy bar, Zaleski and his group arrive. The lawyer quietly slips him a note, asking him to make a call that night. Later, they manage to meet in secret, and Zaleski tells the lawyer he hasn't seen the mysterious prisoner for 2 days. Furious, the lawyer threatens to involve the district attorney, but the guard refuses to come forward, fearing he might lose his job. This makes the lawyer uneasy, and he begins to wonder if the boy might have made up the whole story about being locked away. Determined to find out the truth, Henry finds a way to get inside Shawshank prison. He arrives with a church group, pretending to be a Bible reader visiting the inmates. At the same time, the guards discover the body of the dangerous prisoner who shared the cell with the boy. The man has no visible injuries, but the medical examiner says he died from a serious illness. She's puzzled how no one noticed his condition earlier. With such severe symptoms, he wouldn't have been able to get out of bed. Once again, Henry leaves the prison without answers. But Zaleski proves to him that the prisoner's story is real. He lets the boy out into the prison yard for a few seconds. Henry quickly gives him some instructions and takes a photo, which will help him visit the boy more easily. Later, during lunch, the boy breaks the rules and stands up, walking toward the far wall. Zaleski steps in to calm him and guides him back to his seat. Quietly, he passes the boy a message from Henry, asking him to be patient a little longer while he works on dealing with the prison officials. During their next secret meeting, Zaleski tells Henry everything. Henry asks the guard to get closer to the boy and learn more about him. In return, he promises to help Zaleski get into law school. Meanwhile, Henry tries to gather information about the old case involving former Warden Dale Lacey. He learns that a childhood friend, Molly, has been arrested. Henry pays her bail and helps her get released just in time for a TV show. Using her mind-reading ability, Molly learns what Henry is thinking during their ride. Grateful, she reveals the truth about the Shawshank prisoner live on a popular show, shocking the audience. After this revelation, Teresa Porter, the prison warden, contacts Henry. She hands him a thin file with the limited information she has on the boy and offers a deal. Shawshank will pay the prisoner $300,000 if he drops all claims. Officially, it would be called a wrongful arrest. Henry tells his client about the offer at their first meeting but insists they should refuse the money and prove this was no accident. It was a real kidnapping. But the boy doesn't seem interested in money. He asks Henry strange questions related to his own disappearance and his father's death 30 years ago. Meanwhile, tension in the prison grows heavier every day. Zaleski is shocked by how badly his colleagues treat the prisoners. The boy is also disturbed. Teresa's deputy tries to scare the boy, hoping to get the truth about his past and why he was locked away. But this time, the prisoner speaks back. He gives a strange speech about God's word that deeply unsettles the warden. That evening, Zaleski finds Henry at a bar. Ignoring the rules, he approaches the lawyer openly and asks him to step outside for a talk. Outside, he gives Henry a drawing of a cage and begs him to intervene. Things at Shawshank have gotten out of control. He finally agrees to testify and expose the abuses. But Zaleski's condition worsens. He grows distant from his colleagues and barely speaks to them. During secret visits, he promises the boy they will escape the cursed place together. Henry begins to suspect that the mystery of his client is tied to the dark events from 30 years ago. While digging through old archives, the lawyer finds some articles and notes about the disappearance, but no new details have surfaced since then, and official records seem to be missing. The only lead he manages to uncover is the address of a man suspected in the kidnapping, though his involvement was never proven. Henry decides to visit this man's remote forest home to meet him face to face. The elderly man doesn't recognize Henry right away, but when Henry introduces himself, the man hands over a folder stolen from the archives. He's glad someone finally cares about the case and hopes Henry remembers what really happened, hoping it can clear his name. Henry shares the meeting with Sheriff Allen, who warns him to stop digging for the truth. The sheriff reveals that, before he died, Henry Sr. mentioned the name of the person who pushed him off a cliff, and shockingly, that person was Henry himself. Feeling weighed down by this, Henry regrets coming back to Castle Rock and tells Zaleski he's dropping the case and heading back to Chicago. This news drives Zaleski to the edge of madness. In a fit of rage, he pulls out his service pistol and kills all the co-workers who had been tormenting him. Henry, nearby Teresa's office, tries to stop him. Zaleski tells Henry he wants to test him, but the prison warden orders the guard to be taken down, ensuring the truth stays locked inside Shawshank's walls. Before leaving, Henry sets up a surveillance system at his mother's house to keep her safe while she's ill. He installs an app on Alan's phone and asks him to watch over her during his absence. But plans change when Henry learns his client has been released, yet has nowhere to go and no family to turn to. Henry must find the boy and figure out the next step. He first takes the boy to a doctor, but after running tests, the clinic refuses to admit him, as no serious health issues are found. Molly, a friend, offers to help and invites the boy to stay at her studio until Henry can arrange something better. They lock the young man inside and promise he's safe, hidden from anyone looking for him. But it's not him they should fear. At night, the boy sneaks out and wanders through Castle Rock. He's drawn to an ordinary house where a child's birthday party is happening. As he approaches, the atmosphere shifts. The joyful celebration turns into a nightmare, with screams and cries replacing the children's songs. The next day, Molly's friend Jackie visits the studio, but the boy has already vanished. Meanwhile, Henry and his family attend a ceremony at a bridge dedicated to Sheriff Alan Pangborn. The event is ruined when Ruth loses her grip on reality and jumps into the water, not recognizing who stands before her. Jackie chats with a strange man, but within an hour she calls Molly for help. The man has climbed onto a rooftop and refuses to come down. Molly climbs after him but hears not thoughts in his head, but the cries of millions who have lived in Castle Rock throughout its history. Shaken, she rushes to tell Henry. Though he doubts the story, he has no choice but to let the boy stay and find a safer place for him. Henry offers the boy to stay temporarily in his father's garage, but the young man's behavior unsettles him once again. The boy plays the same piano tune Henry's father used to play. Back at the bridge, the sheriff blames himself for what happened to Ruth and wants to remove the plaque with his name. Just then, his phone buzzes. A notification warns someone is inside the house. The sheriff rushes home and meets the nighttime visitor. the same boy Dale Lacey drove away 30 years ago. The boy hasn't aged a day. Alan raises his gun, ready to finish what his old friend started. But the boy pleads with him not to act hastily. He promises to save Ruth and bring back her sanity. While Henry cares for his father, the boy rummages through his belongings and finds an old video camera with tapes showing Henry Sr.'s walks with his son. He then meets Alan and asks him to locate the car Dale Lacey used to bring him to prison 30 years ago. The old man tells him the car's been at a junkyard for years, but the boy insists that Alan must find a way to bring it back home. The boy acts like he owns the place, putting on Dale's suit and turning on the music player. When Ruth returns and sees the stranger, she feels sick. She tells her son that the suit doesn't belong there. Her husband was buried in it. Seeing things spiral out of control, Henry decides to take the boy to a psychiatric clinic and leaves him in the care of the staff. But the very next day, the boy is back at the Dver home. Alan finds his old friend's car and convinces the driver to give him the wreck. After recovering the vehicle, the old man turns back to the boy, but the young man suddenly appears at the doorstep, badly hurt. It looks like he has lost all motivation to save Ruth. The old man rushes inside to find the woman and understand what happened. He finds belongings scattered around and red stains, but Ruth is nowhere to be seen. Meanwhile, Ruth is hiding quietly in the barn, loading her gun with nerves stretched to the limit. When the boy returns to the house, she thinks she sees her late husband in him. A news report about a fire at the psychiatric clinic snaps her back to reality. She realizes this visitor is a serious threat to her family. She finds a gun hidden by her husband, but the clip is empty. The strange boy is far scarier than Ruth expected. Not only does he wear the deceased man's suit, but he begins to act just like him. He knows things only the head of the family would know. He invites Ruth to dance and answers all her questions, proving he's not new to the house. Ruth tries to keep up the act, but the boy notices her fear and offers her a sedative. Still, she manages to trick him and escape to find ammunition and protect herself. Her memory helps her find the secret stash. She hides in the barn, loads the gun, and waits anxiously. When footsteps grow dangerously close, she fires. She hears a body fall, but when she looks, it's not the boy lying there, it's Alan, lying motionless on the floor. Later, a couple buys Dale Lacey's house and plans to open a hotel. In the basement, they find hundreds of paintings by the former owner. Each canvas shows the same face, the boy's face. These paintings hang on the walls as the couple starts setting up the hotel. Luck seems to favor them as the first guests arrive the very same day, promising success. But the house's owner, Gordon, chooses a dark way to celebrate. He brutally murders the guests. Henry returns once again to the house and finds the boy. The visitor leads him to Alan's body still lying in the barn. The boy tells Henry he has waited 27 years for him and that they must go into the woods. But the police arrive, forcing the boy to flee and leaving Henry alone with the problems. That night, Henry decides to break into Dale Lacey's house to finally uncover answers about the mysterious prisoner. He enters through the basement and goes upstairs to the living room, covered in portraits of the boy. The sight is strange to Henry, but one painting catches his eye. It shows the boy in the same pose and clothes as Henry was depicted on a flyer during his disappearance. The homeowners discover the intruder in their gallery and try to get rid of him, but Henry escapes outside. Jackie Torrance comes to his rescue, skillfully wielding an axe like her famous uncle. Meanwhile, Molly returns home. On the stairs, she meets the boy who says only she can help him because she knows him well. Molly is confused but follows the visitor upstairs and agrees to listen. The boy describes her room and childhood in detail and doesn't hide how he knows this. He insists he was there when her life ended, in another reality. In another world, the boy, also Henry, presents an innovative drug for Alzheimer's, which he created to cure his mother. He then receives terrible news. Something has happened to his father, and he must return to Castle Rock. The town and the house look just like the ones Henry returned to, but this Henry's life is very different. Here, Molly is also his best friend, and they spend an evening together at a bar. The boy talks about how his mother now lives with the former sheriff, whom she left many years ago. That night, the power goes out. Henry goes to the basement to find the breaker but finds something else, a cage holding a locked-up teenager, the missing Henry. Police and social services arrive. The boy is examined but says nothing except the name of the young homeowner. Among his father's tapes, Henry finds one with explanations. His father tells how a teenage boy appeared at his doorstep, claiming the man was his adopted father and that his name was Henry. Believing the boy was a demon sent in answer to his prayers to bring back the son Ruth had taken and to protect the town from evil, his father locked the teenager in a cage for many years until he died. Henry plays the tape for Molly, but she is convinced it's all just a product of imagination. The old man's troubled mind leads Molly and Henry to visit the boy, hoping to hear his side of the story. But just as they arrive, a fire breaks out at the shelter, forcing the teenager to be moved to the police station. When Molly and Henry meet him there, the boy behaves oddly. He insists his name is Henry Dver and urgently tells them they need to go into the woods, because time is running out. The police agree to release the boy to Molly's care, but assign Officer Zisi to accompany them. However, Molly manages to break away from the escort, risking everything by darting in front of a train to take the boy deeper into the forest and uncover the truth behind his strange arrival. The boy runs farther into the woods, giving no explanation. Henry and Molly chase after him, but suddenly the boy stops, as if trapped between two worlds. Molly focuses and somehow reads his thoughts, seeing what the young Henry is seeing. But just as she is witnessing these strange visions, Officer Zisi appears behind them. The boy bolts even further into the forest. Molly, Zisi, and Henry try desperately to catch up, but at that moment the officer's gun accidentally fires, and Molly collapses, eyes closing. Before losing consciousness, she asks Henry to help the boy return. Once again, something strange happens. Henry sees figures from different times, people who died in this forest long ago. Then everything vanishes, and he finds himself alone in the same spot, but now it's winter, and snow blankets the ground. He runs to a cliff to get a better view and sees Sheriff Alan Pangborn discovering the boy, calling him Henry Dver. The boy finishes telling his story. He admits that for several days, he tried to find a way back to his own world but failed. Dale Lacey found him in the woods, and the boy spent the next 30 years locked in a cage in the basement of Shawshank. Dale Lacey waited for signs from higher powers for 3 decades and even tried to end the boy's suffering once, but didn't have the courage to go through with it. Now, the boy asks Molly for help. He says they need to convince Henry to enter the woods and find the passage between worlds to restore everything to how it should be. Molly promises to tell Henry about their conversation the next day. Meanwhile, the boy visits the town cemetery, standing by the grave of Dver Sr. Henry promises Molly they will talk about the woods later and heads to the police station to pick up his son. But the police hold him because of the trouble at the hotel. Teresa Porter, the prison warden, visits Molly's studio and hands her a figurine that mysteriously appeared in Molly's house, a warning from the prisoner. Teresa leaves but is hit by a prison bus moments later. Following Molly's lead, the police find the boy and take him to the station too. But he doesn't plan on staying there for long. First, he manipulates the situation so that he and Henry end up locked in the same cell. Then he starts a riot, encouraging the prisoners to attack the guards and take over the station. The two men walk through the empty halls where no guards remain alive. The boy urges Henry to come with him into the woods, but when Henry refuses, the boy pulls a gun, forcing him to comply. They arrive at a familiar place. Henry recalls the day he pushed his father off a cliff, something he did on purpose to protect himself and his mother from the mad tyrant. While the boy is distracted for a brief moment, Henry lunges and takes the gun from the boy's hands. For the first time since they met, the boy's sweet face twists into a terrifying grimace. Henry realizes that Dale Lacey was right. Standing before him is the real devil. A year later, Henry returns to his normal life but no longer defends the condemned. Instead, he now deals with land disputes. He lives in Castle Rock in his parents' house and visits the graves of his mother, Alan, and one other secret place every evening. Every night, Henry sneaks into the abandoned Shawshank prison, descends into a well, and feeds his prisoner. Unlike his predecessor, Henry doesn't linger by the cage to listen to the boy's words because he still isn't sure if what he's doing is right. 400 years earlier, in a forested area, a group of French settlers struggles to build a village. The people are starving, and hope is fading. The leader's daughter, Amadi, tries to spark a rebellion but ends up exiled along with her fiancé, Marston. They wander the woods, seemingly doomed, until Amadi hears a mysterious sound that leads her to an angel standing on a cliff, who shows her a new path. Amadi returns to the settlement to share her encounter, and a miracle follows. Barren land suddenly sprouts crops that could feed an entire city. The villagers surround Amadi, thanking her as a saint. The elder tries to stop the chaos, suspecting witchcraft, but the starving people don't listen and choose a new prophet. Not satisfied with mere human approval, Amadi sacrifices those responsible for her exile. She tells the people she is the angel's voice and that they must spread his message forever. Every day, she awaits further instructions. But the sacrifices the angel demands are cruel. Seeing Amadi's doubt, the angel sends his servants. A swarm of moths emerges from a wooden statue and possesses the villagers, erasing all doubts. Amadi declares the angel has given them an important mission: to sleep until the time comes, then rise to conquer the world. Work in the village intensifies, and when everything is ready, the congregation descends into underground tunnels to carry out the angel's will. Amadi personally takes the lives of each villager, placing their bodies in wooden boxes. She promises that in 400 years, the angel will bring them back to life to enslave the world and gain limitless power. When only Amadi and Marston remain, she reminds him of the rules. In 400 years, he will be resurrected first and must awaken the others. But first, he must find new vessels, bodies for the souls of the villagers, and, most importantly, locate the angel who will lead them. 4 centuries later, a grand parade celebrates Castle Rock's 400th anniversary. The local pastor unveils a statue of the angel. As the veil lifts, the crowd falls silent, entranced by the gaze of the wooden figure, just as Amadi was entranced centuries before. When the angel removes his hood, his face is revealed, the boy prisoner from Shawshank. The crowd follows the statue blindly through the town. Ace Merrill, a vessel for Marston's soul, kneels by Amadi's grave, promising her a swift awakening. He has already found a body for her, a teenage girl named Joy, who joins the procession, ready for her return. As the people follow the angel statue to complete the final ritual, a young girl is being prepared for the ceremony. This is the moment when Amadi's soul is meant to enter her body. Marin gathers the followers and reminds them of the great promise. Once the prophet returns, they will have limitless power over the entire world. The townspeople, like zombies under a spell, keep their eyes locked on the statue. Meanwhile, the resurrected prepare the sacred altar, eagerly awaiting the moment their leader will rise again. But a small group of unaffected individuals has a different plan. After studying the layout of the underground tunnels, they decide to stop the ritual by setting off explosives and destroying the ceremony site. However, the angel is already close, standing just outside Castle Rock, ready to unleash his followers and spread darkness across the land. The saboteurs trigger the first blast, shaking the town. The second explosion is even more powerful. The angel statue collapses and shatters into pieces. Instantly, the crowd breaks free from the trance. Confused and disoriented, people look around, trying to understand how they ended up in such a strange place. Chaos erupts. Taking advantage of the disorder, Joy grabs the ceremonial blade and uses it to strike down Marston. She escapes the strange house, running away from the horrors. From a high cliff, the angel silently watches everything fall apart. Realizing that his plan has failed once again, he fades away into nothingness. Soon after, posters are put up around Castle Rock, announcing that Henry has mysteriously gone missing once more. The film stands out as a hauntingly beautiful piece of psychological and supernatural horror. From the very beginning, the eerie visuals, subdued sound design, and enigmatic characters pull the viewer into a twisted version of reality where nothing is certain. Inspired by Stephen King's universe, it blends slow-burning suspense with existential dread. What truly shines is the non-linear storytelling and shifting perspectives. The plot jumps through time, alternate dimensions, and conflicting realities. This structure demands attention but rewards the viewer with a layered, thought-provoking experience. The mystery of the kid is particularly compelling. His youthful innocence hides something far more dangerous, creating a constant sense of unease. The film also masterfully uses symbolism and religious allegory. Themes of faith, sin, redemption, and sacrifice are woven into the plot. From ancient rituals to angelic visions, every image carries deeper meaning. The narrative functions like a puzzle, slowly revealing the horrifying truth behind the myth. It's not just a horror story, it's a meditation on belief, control, and moral ambiguity. Despite its ambitious concept, the film struggles with coherence and pacing. Its complex narrative, full of time jumps, alternative worlds, and supernatural lore, becomes overwhelming for many viewers. Instead of building tension, the constant shifts in tone and structure make it difficult to follow the core storyline. The overabundance of subplots and characters dilutes the emotional impact. From resurrected cult members to ancient rituals and parallel realities, the story loses focus. Some characters vanish without explanation, others are underdeveloped, and key motivations remain unclear. The audience is often left guessing not because of suspense, but because of missing context. The ending, while dramatic, lacks resolution. Instead of delivering answers, it leans on ambiguity. Important questions: who is the angel? Is the kid evil or misunderstood? What happens to the town? Are left unanswered. While open endings can be powerful, here it feels more like a puzzle with missing pieces, leaving viewers more confused than satisfied.